We have with us today former Prime Minister Gordon Brown. We'll take him through the global economy and his point of view, which he has dwelled on in quite a bit of detail at the Leadership Summit. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon.
Quickly, you mentioned the crisis is not over, the global crisis. What exactly did you have in mind?
That we still have to be sure that the financial stability that we're seeking is going to be there, and therefore there are a number of basic questions about the running of financial institutions that are as yet unresolved. Equally, I'm worried that because we don't have a coordinated plan for growth around the world, that we may slip back into protectionism. And there's a real danger that countries will see the problem as something that they've got to solve within their own frontiers without international cooperative action. And then you retrench as a world economy, you shrink, and then protectionism takes over. Now, my alternative to that is a plan for global growth. I think we can create large numbers of additional jobs, take millions of people out of poverty, get growth at a higher level. But you can only do that if people are prepared to cooperate internationally. And I think the next G20, which is chaired by President Sarkozy, has a huge opportunity to do that.
Well, that's a year away. In the immediate short run, given your concerns...
Six months before the G8.
Right. Yeah. So if you're given your concerns, which you just expressed, in the short run, what's your outlook for the global economy?
In the short term, the Asian economy is growing fast. And the African economy is now recovering quite fast, and so is Latin America. But the problem we've got is the big driver of growth over the last 2 centuries has been Europe and America, and they are not growing fast enough to even keep unemployment coming down fast in these countries. So we have a difficulty in the world where there's insufficient global aggregate demand. Growth is not rising fast enough overall in Europe and America to prevent there being high unemployment. Equally, the export potential for Asia is limited as America and Europe fail to grow as fast. But if you had coordinated action, in other words, if America and Europe invested in the productive industries of the future that other countries will want to buy as exports from them, and if Asia was able to increase its consumption and therefore more consumer spending, then I think we'd have a more balanced world economy. That will happen sometime. The question is how fast it will happen.
But given your own experience at the helm in managing the economy, do you believe that there's a structural fault line in the global economy beyond this imbalance? You know, there's some fundamental shift happening which probably renders conventional monetary and fiscal policies redundant.
Look, for 200 years, Europe and America together monopolized and had the majority of economic activity within their borders. The majority of trade was Europe and America. The majority of manufacturing was European and American. That's changed now. The rest of the world is now producing more, manufacturing more, exporting more, trading more than Europe and America. But what's not happened is that the balance of consumption has changed. So America and Europe are still consuming, 20 trillions a year? India 1 and a bit trillions, China 2 trillions. So between them, a very small fraction of the consumption of Europe and America. So at some point, consumption and production will move greater into balance. And that will mean that the drivers of growth in the future will be the consumer demands of citizens in India and China and Asia. And I think we've got to prepare for that world.
Exactly. So just to take that a little further, like say the QE2, for example, what's good for one country is not necessarily good for the rest of the world. So, and given the globalized nature of the economy right now, is there a sense that conventionally what you would do in the UK economy or what India would do within its own economy using conventional monetary fiscal policy tools are no longer that effective?
Well, I think the truth is that unless you have weapons that are global, that are agreed internationally, then there is a danger that each country will just take its own measures that may be in their interest but not in everybody else's interest. I happen to think that monetary stimulus in America is good for the world economy because we need an America that is growing. An America that is not growing and an America that is not importing as well as not succeeding internally. And I happen to think that we should have a wider debate about. We should be reopening the trade discussions in a big way, not in a way where we don't expect anything to come on that. But I think America is now more ready than ever to talk about trade around the world. I think we should have a financial system agreed where we don't see Europe and America or other countries just going their own way. We've got to have global standards and rules. And I think we could agree a global growth plan. I really do think it's not it's not impossible for the different big economies of the world to come together and agree what they could do collectively to make for higher growth. The IMF has looked at this issue and says that we could probably get 4% higher growth by 2014. That could mean 50 million jobs, 100 million people taken out of poverty. Now, these are the sort of things that by countries cooperating together we could actually achieve.
And going long term, given the discussions that you had, does it make sense, like some economists have suggested, that move to a single currency to have a more unified world and where monetary policy is more effective across countries?
I think the difficulty of agreeing a major currency change, which has never really happened unless there has been a breakdown, I think that's something that is a problem, but worth pursuing as an idea, because you want currency stability, and you want currencies that are able to reflect the fundamentals of their economy and the world economy. But I think the greater breakthrough could be on growth. I think the biggest problem we face is that while the world is capable of growing much faster, it's not clear that we will grow much faster, and that we're going to leave unused capacity in all sorts of different countries at a level that means that there is still, or there may be, high unemployment. And I think that's the biggest area where we could achieve a breakthrough. And I think currency discussions are important because in the long run there are going to be changes in the way we deal with currency arrangements in the world. But I think the more important thing at the moment is to get growth. And once you've got growth, it makes it a lot easier for countries to face up to big reforms.
Do you believe at Seoul the G20 countries missed out on an opportunity to take this cooperation to another level altogether?
I think they know that their conclusions were provisional rather than complete. And I think that there is a lot more discussion that can happen that could yield results. I mean, my own view is that you could have an agreed growth plan, and I think India should be very much part of that discussion, and I think the world would benefit from an agreed way of moving forward that would give confidence to the marketplace that we were able to sort out some of the problems we have.
And Seoul also underlined the forward movement on IMF reforms, where the quotas were rearranged. Yeah. What's the logical conclusion of this? Will the US-European hegemony of the leadership of the fund and bank eventually change?
Well, I think these positions should be filled on the basis of merit, and I think that's generally now agreed. I think that the big change in the International Monetary Fund in a way reflects the creation of the G20, that those countries that are in the G20 in Asia will have far more power and sway in the International Monetary Fund. But we mustn't forget that there are 192 or 3 countries in the world, that a group like the G20 can represent only some of them, and that we perhaps should be looking for a constituency system where all countries feel that they have some representation in these discussions. That's what the IMF has and needs to enhance. That's what the World Bank tries to have, but perhaps the G20 should learn a lesson from the IMF on that. But we need to recognize the changing base of power, economic power around the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.